Welcome back, everyone, to Industry. I like to Industry. I like how I say that. My name is Hill. This is Mike Games and Andrew on our far right. And guess what? What's interesting is that out in the news, there's been a whole lot of hoopla about PlayStation Now. They announced what they're doing. There's some people that feel like it's a big joke. I'm paraphrasing, or am I not paraphrasing? Or maybe I'm just telling the truth.
I don't
Let's
know.
let's figure it out. Well, what overall? Let's start with this. What overall do you feel? How do you feel about PlayStation Now? Like, do you think it's going to be a good concept? Do you think it's going to be something that makes Sony successful? Is this going to create a whole nother market where Xbox is going to have to duplicate the same service? Let's start with you, Mike.
I mean, I'm actually looking forward to it. I know some people are like, why would I want to play some classic games on my
Right.
PlayStation?
Hmm.
Well, right now, because there aren't too many games on the PlayStation 4 since it's new, but since it's not backwards compatible, I think that's a way of kind of reliving those old games and
Right.
some games that I didn't check out back in the day too. So I'm actually really excited for it.
That's a good way of looking at it because maybe you were so caught up in all the good games that you weren't able to play any of the other games, and this gives you that chance, and it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, outside right now it's like 20 degrees. You see, we're all like huddled up. We don't feel like going to GameStop, and nobody really goes to GameStop
Who
anymore,
wants
right?
to go
What's
to
that?
GameStop?
So you have easy access to these games where you can stream them.
All right. And I actually have some friends that work at GameStop, so I'm just kidding.
I'm
I'm
not.
not. All right, all right. So, well, I like Barnes and Nobles though. Good job. Anyway,
But I'm actually looking forward to it. Plus, I'm hoping that
I see what you did there. No joke.
I'm hoping that people end up getting familiar with the Soul Reaver games too, so they could see how popular it is and maybe make a new one.
You make another great point because like, what if that's a testing ground for developers to see how a I guess an IP did in the past,
Yeah,
and they can use those stats to see if they can continue that in the future. For example, like a lot of people really enjoy Jack and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank or Soul Reaver or even uh, medieval games. Do you remember not actual medieval games, but like the medieval game,
well, yeah,
on
Yeah,
PlayStation?
yeah, I
And it
remember
was
that.
kind of a big deal for a lot of people at the time,
Mhm.
and maybe it'll catch on again. And there's a lot of times where I find myself on YouTube saying like, "Oh wow, yeah, I did play that on PlayStation One or
Mhm.
PlayStation Two.
yeah,
That's kind of awesome."
Yeah, what was that raccoon game? The thief.
Sly,
So yeah,
Sly.
they're making a cartoon now out of it,
yeah, and it's
and
actually pretty good.
CG
Yeah,
and it's crazy because those are pretty old games.
right,
I mean, they came out with one 2 years ago or something like that. But
exactly.
so, yeah, my feeling on it is, gosh, it's either going to work out really well for them or it's going to be a total bomb. It's one or the other, and I personally feel it's actually a pretty good idea. You pay your service, you basically get all these games for free, and it differentiates themselves from Xbox because Xbox
Right,
is not doing that.
right.
You either buy the game or play it,
You can
and
tell Sony is really focused on developers.
yeah, they're focused not so much on. I don't think so much on developers as much as games.
Hmm.
It's a gaming system. They're not. They're focusing on their games,
Okay.
which
Right,
is different. What I feel is different from Xbox. Um, I feel like games is part of the console. They're maybe on equal par with Xbox with their whole system. Whereas Sony's really just be like, hey, you want to watch movies? Great,
right.
but here are games.
Yeah.
What's interesting too is like you yourself, you have a gigantic gaming library.
They do.
And I think this gives people the access to having the same Android gaming library.
Right.
I think that's maybe what Sony was kind of seeing is they're all rich, more or less. No, I'm joking. But like they probably feel like, hey, we have a ton of these games already.
Right. And we're not making any money off of them, right?
You're right.
So they're just sitting there collecting dust. Obviously, if people had access to them without actually going to the store,
Exactly.
they would play them. And with kids more being more as they're growing up, they're playing games. Games are a part of their life. As it was more of a stretch for us, I feel like,
Right.
and now parents are actually playing games. They're our age. We grew
Right.
up with games.
Right.
Our parents didn't play games, obviously.
And you hit on the point right there because now it's a generational thing
Hmm.
as well that they're tapping into. Let's say like the younger generation, they weren't able to play a lot of these games that came out on PlayStation. PlayStation
Right.
came out what 97?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
So and think about it, this way. It surprised me more when I meet 20-year-olds or 18-year-olds and they've actually played a game that I played as a kid,
Right.
it surprises the hell out of me.
Right.
Because I was like, you weren't even alive when that game came out. And of course, I'm showing my age there, but it's a pleasant surprise to talk to somebody younger than me that's actually played the same game I did when I was their age or,
Yeah,
or whatever.
It's an interesting thing to have a conversation with them about like Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
You know, and their perspective on there, they're like, man, this camera sucks.
Exactly. And in a game that, you know, it's near to everybody's heart, it's Final Fantasy VII, right?
Right.
And it's debated one of the best RPG games out there.
Right.
Having access to that game now for younger generation was great. And not having to pay, you know, full retail price or whatever. I mean, obviously they wouldn't now because it'd be like $10, but yeah, it's great to have that access to games that actually set up other games and how they are now.
Okay, well, with that being said, how about let's go 2 generations up. So the older folks, they were not into gaming back then, and there's been a lot of consoles that have invited them into the gaming world, and now they probably feel like they missed out on a lot. Do you think, Mike, that this gives them access to those older games to see what that we've been playing when they've been, you know, punishing us and making us do our homework? Now they get a chance to actually play it while their old asses are in or on the retirement beach.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, like I said, that's what I'm looking forward to is, you know, being able to play some of those older games. I actually never had a PlayStation 1. I ended up getting the Xbox, and I think I had, what was back then, the GameCube or Nintendo 64, I don't remember.
That's 64.
Yeah. And so I never had the PlayStation, so I'm looking forward to being able to play some of those PlayStation games. Plus, like I said, I mean, the PlayStation 4 isn't backwards compatible, so some of these people traded in their PlayStation 3s or, you know, to get the new console.
Right.
So now, since it's not backwards compatible, they could still play those older games.
And they can trade their games to get more value so they can get the PlayStation 4 as well. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, and then it goes to our generation that is kind of, you know, playing on the nostalgia.
Right.
And nostalgia is a big thing just to human society. Is Sony, I think, is really catering to that. And I really do want to go back and play a lot of the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games because PlayStation 2 was like it for us. That shit ran our lives. And the gaming library, I think it was the largest gaming library of that generation, or actually I think of all time, I believe.
Huge shit, yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, my theory is the whole reason they're doing it is to kill GameStop.
Yeah,
imagine paying $15 a month and putting GameStop out of business.
Amazon's already been trying to kill GameStop,
right? But this is, I mean, you pay $15.
There's hot pokers coming from all sides.
Exactly, and everybody's trying to kill GameStop. I hate GameStop. Sorry, GameStop. You suck. And your customer service sucks.
Mike's like,
sorry, Mike's
guys.
friends.
Sorry, Mike's friends. There are other jobs. I promise.
I hear PlayStation Now may be hiring. But I mean, it's a way to kill that industry because it is detrimental to the developers. It's detrimental to the actual gaming system. And how do you compete with that, right? And this is
the whole resale gaming,
right? So think of like Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster was a big thing. You couldn't get away from it. Netflix comes along now. You can stream videos. Now Blockbuster's out of business,
right?
And this is another nail in the coffin for GameStop. And I feel like it's like, how do we beat that? We'll still allow you to trade our games, obviously, with PlayStation, but now you have access to all these library. You don't have to go to GameStop.
And that's a subtle way of moving all these gamers to not really having the option to trade games, and all that money that the developers are accumulating, or that Sony's accumulating from the streaming service to go back to the developers. And that's really what the developers really want in the end, and for GameStop to die.
Right. And in theory, it's supposed to work very well, right? It's supposed to be like on live, but a lot better. And hopefully it does. You're going to have a good system and a good internet connection and things like that. So
but I don't know if it would put GameStop out of business. I actually do see where, you know, the gaming analyst Michael Pachters, where he was coming from. I mean, I don't see the developers letting PlayStation put their games on.
Well, it's not going to be a new game, right? It's going to be older games. Well, they're not going to do new games unless you buy it like on, because digital download, right? So they're going to be older games.
They kind of teased like Last of Us whenever they talked about.
Well, again, Last of Us is more of a PlayStation like
Right,
their
they're owned
moniker,
by
yeah.
PlayStation.
So like they can put their first party games on there, but anybody else, I don't see if it's a way for that developer to make money on a 5-year-old game, they'll totally do it. Like, because who else is other than that? You're giving your money to GameStop, right? And they're not getting any money from that.
The reason I could see it being successful, and we're going to get to a way of probably poking holes to it, see why it wouldn't be successful. But I mean, people are lazy, you know. And, you know, finding these older games is kind of a chore.
It's true.
It's very difficult.
You got to go to Amazon. You got to type in the thing.
You know how hard and stressful it is to type in Google. You know, I have to search things myself. I want somebody else to search things for me.
I have to Bing it. And
Yeah, it's called Her.
Yeah, if we all could have Scarlett Johansson in our pocket, I think.
Have her
system
somewhere.
seller. That's a system seller.
That's a system seller. Anyway, but I mean, how would it feel? Let's say if we took the side of Pachter and instead of we would elaborate on that, it's a big joke.
It would fail. First thing, it would be connection issues, right? You have to have a certain criteria. Not everybody's internet connection is great.
What? Don't tell Microsoft that.
Right. So that's one reason it would fail. So they could, say try it out for, 2 weeks, see if it works out. If it doesn't, then no harm, no loss. So no foul.
I would say older games. When you go back and actually play these older games, they're actually bad. Granted,
some of them. There's a lot of bad games.
There's a lot of, and I'm talking about mechanic wise. Like we're so used to a certain way of how games are made now that the nostalgia kind of wears off when you start playing these like older games. I know a lot of people love Final Fantasy VII, but I can't play it anymore. And Metal Gear Solid, I can't. Really play that
look
shit.
at it from our perspective, right? We've beaten those games. Very rarely are we going to go back and play that
Right.
game.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it was that great of a story.
And that's another thing is like a lot of people. They like to beat games and just be done with them. And
That's me.
I think that's I'm the same way, and I think that's a large majority of people. Unless you're one of those collectors, like those, how those movie collectors, they always go back and watch another movie. I maybe have like one friend out of my plethora of friends that actually will go back and constantly play a game,
Right.
and they like to live in that world. But that's very rare because
Skyrim.
There we go.
Sorry.
Skyrim from the previous video.
You're welcome, internet.
So what that means is go back and watch the previous video and then come back and watch
But
this.
to your point, Skyrim is a world people love to live in. I hate that world, but people love that world.
He dislikes Bethesda if you want the footnotes.
Yeah. Screw you, Maryland.
I'm actually one of those people that goes back and plays older games.
Okay.
I mean, of course, the game that I do that often with is probably arguably the best video game of all time.
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time. And I played that game so much that I went back, I played it, and I could beat it with just the 3 hearts that you started the game off with. So
let me make something very clear to you. Nintendo's going to package that shit again, and they're going to ship it to you full price. Okay, they're not going to stream Ocarina of Time.
give me another game then.
Nintendo's like, fuck that.
Well, Nintendo will never do a PlayStation Now thing, I don't think.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
they're like, yeah, you have to pay for wrapping. This is the special edition in HD.
Nintendo is a
Bitch.
hardware company, right? I mean, first and foremost, they make money on their
So is
hardware.
Sony.
Yeah, but Sony, their perspectives are different.
Yeah, it's because they're fucking Sony.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of different holes that I could think of off the top of my head, and there was some good points as well. Anything else that you can think of off the back of why it could fail?
I think it is a lot with the connection issues. I mean, that's going to be streaming, so let's see how the servers could handle so many people playing those.
Right.
Do we have a
games.
pricing for it yet?
No.
There's
they
no.
don't.
nothing.
That's the
They're
last thing I
doing
was
the
gonna
beta
say.
right now.
Yeah.
That was the last thing I was gonna say is like the whole pricing of it, because pricing kill it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't suspect that it's going to be like $50 a month. I mean, that would be ridiculous for anybody. I suspect it would be, somewhere on par with any other streaming service, maybe $20, $30 a
Well,
month.
they're gonna have to cover the cost for all those games being licensed.
Mhm.
So, from a business standpoint, yeah, $50 would be a lot, but I could see them totally doing like $39.99 or something.
Yeah. Because I mean, you got
and that's high.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's because you're not paying for Xbox Live to be able to play on the internet, which is a
Right.
necessity to play with friends.
Mhm.
This is a luxury
right,
Yeah.
in some sense.
right. So they're yeah. I mean, we got to get more details. I have my suspicions of what it'll be. I really hope it's not $50 or even $40.
And I like
I'd
before
be
the pricing factor was like, this is a joke.
Well, I think he was saying that mainly because of on live.
Because he is him.
Because yeah, Pachters an ass. But, although I watch his show every week, he's an entertaining guy, and obviously he's coming from a perspective of analysis, right? Stock
Right.
market analysis.
Well,
So.
shit, so am I. So what?
And you know, he's been wrong. The guy's
What?
been wrong.
No
Believe it
way.
or not, you know, a 50-year-old guy doesn't really play video games. Has been wrong. I've been wrong, and I'm in my 30s. So I could be. He could be right. He could fall dead in the water. I personally don't think it will. I think Sony has enough data to be like, this many people will buy it or at least try it out, and if we sell a quality product, they'll come.
I could see where he was coming from though, because I don't see people younger than us getting that, because they're gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be a bunch of older games.
Right.
So I mean, I think like my nephew, he's just turned 13. I don't see him.
Well, it's not
wanting-
just games, right? Because it's a media center as well. So it has to do with getting videos or TV. And,
Well, I
and
mean,
movies.
are these 13-year-olds really concerned about watching these older ass movies? And
What if I position it like this, where it's like, okay, you're paying for Netflix. What if we offer Netflix and also games?
oh, that's a whole nother business aspect,
Right,
that we
because
have
they
to
are
take
putting
on.
media in this. It's not just games.
I think that's where Pactor was like, that's fucking bullshit, because like you as a content provider, you're already putting this stuff through Netflix. What makes you think you're going to turn around and put it through Sony as well? Because you're risking putting your license out there and not selling.
Well, the thing is, they do it already, right? I mean, Amazon does it. Hulu does it.
I mean, that's true. I'm playing devil's advocate. I couldn't give a
Right.
shit less.
No, I'm just saying that it seems like they're not so concerned with not getting their money's worth.
Right.
And I think Pachter was also saying, because of the licensing, that he doesn't see it lasting, because these companies aren't going to be like, yeah, here, I'm not gonna sell my game for $50. Yeah, let me
Like
just
full
license
price.
it.
I see what you're saying.
Well, if a
It's
game
gonna-
fails, right? So let's say example, what was that game that came out like Aliens, right? It got
That's
awful
Rings.
reviews.
That's a great point.
It didn't. Nobody bought it because of the reviews. But if
That's
I
a
throw
great-
it up on here and I can get some money back from it,
That's a great point.
from somebody else playing it,
Well, you can call it like the cesspool. You
Yeah.
know, like
So maybe that's why he was saying it's going to suck.
well,
He's like, oh,
it's
let's
not
throw
gonna.
on some games that are going.
It's not going to be any new content, right? Netflix doesn't even do new content,
Right.
except unless it's their own stuff.
Right.
So I don't. It's not.
That's a
gonna
good point. Yeah, if you really equate it to Netflix, because Netflix is not like pumping out new shit unless it's their own stuff.
Right. So,
Okay. All right. Well, definitely, guys, check out the previous video since Andrew referenced it.
Skyrim.
And that ends for this segment, and we're gonna have another segment where we talk about more cool shit.
And let us know if you're interested in PlayStation now, and let us know in the comments what you think about it.
Yeah, and if you dislike GameStop. Later, guys.
We know you do.